Hey guys, what's up? I got a request for a DPS guide to the mountain to stroke trooper, whatever it is, the military, something like here. Arsenal spec for the mountain hunter, mercenary, and I have no idea what it is for the other one. I got my book. Let me get my book. Hold on. I wrote down the stuff, the abilities for the Commando that you need it for. I think it's like Grenadier or something like that. I don't know, some other concoction. Now, the main rotation of this is just a priority base. It's just what comes off cooldown first. There's one proc that could interrupt stuff, but I'll tell you about that in a second. The main abilities that you need to do are Tracer Missile. We'll do it on this guy. Let's get rid of this guy first. You do Tracer Missile first to get this stack up, basically. Not only do you get that stack up, but you get another stack up here. The stack that goes on to the enemy basically does armor reduction. Not only does it do armor reduction, but once it's stacked 5 times, which takes 3 missiles, your heat seeker missile does more damage. So when you fire heat seeker missile on it does more damage. So that's pretty much that start of the rotation. As soon as you start the fight, get off 3 of them, and then you're fully stacked. It just keep refreshing. Every time you fire another heat seeker missile, it'll refresh it up to 5. That will make sure that heat seeker missile will always do more damage. It does this maximum damage that it can do. That wants to be hit instantly on cooldown, straight away. Hit it as soon as it comes off cooldown. You want to be hitting that off. That also, when you use that ability, you'll see we get a little buff here as well called Tracer Lock, and it even tells you right there, rail shot damage is increased. Now you want to hit rail shot as soon as it's off cooldown, but don't wait for the 5. I don't wait for the 5 because sometimes it doesn't come along. It depends how often unload procs, so it all depends on that. So I tend to normally have about 3, maybe even 4 by the time it comes off cooldown, and then I'll use it. The other ability, which we want to use on cooldown, is Unload. Whether it procs or not, you want to use it on cooldown. It still does decent DPS. So it's on cooldown now. Now every time you use Tracer Missile or Power Shot, you have a 30% chance, it's in the talents right up here called Barrage, you have a 30% chance that it will stop the cooldown of this, basically refresh the cooldown of this. But not only will it refresh the cooldown, it will give you 25% extra damage, which is great. You want to use that every time it procs, But if it doesn't proc before it's cooled down, use it anyway, because the next Tracer Missile could straight away refresh it. So there's no reason not to use it. Now the ability down here called Thermal Sensor Override, which is what we get, it basically gives you a free shot. Now in your rotation, try and use it on Unload, because I believe, no, don't use it on Unload. What the hell was I saying? Use it on your Tracer Missile or your Power Shot, because they're the most expensive ones. I apologise. But yeah, Tracer Missile or Power Shot, which for the Trooper would be your charged bolts or your grav round. So number 2, the grav round is the Tracer Missile, so you want to start off with that, get 5 stacks, then you can use your demolition round, I believe it is. Is that right? Demolition round? That's your heat seeker missiles. So you use that on cooldown. As soon as it's off cooldown, you use that. You basically hit this as soon as it comes off cooldown, heat seeker missiles. You hit rail shot as soon as it comes off cooldown as well. Doesn't matter how many stacks you've got, just hit rail shots so the cooldown can start going. Nothing stops the cooldown anyway. You can't refresh the rail shot cooldown, so you might as well keep it on cooldown consistently. So use it as soon as it comes up. Unload, use when every time it procs, depending on whether these are about to run out. If these are about to come off, wait and use heat seeker missiles and rail shot first, and then go into Unload to get these back on, because we can't do anything about the cooldown of these things. We'll let this one sit a minute because we can affect the cooldown of this. We have a 30% chance to affect the cooldown of Unload. So technically all these abilities should Tracer Missile, Heat Seeker Missile, Rail Shot and Unload should always be being used when possible. Now, the only other little trick is tracer missile and power shot do the same thing. Power shot can also refresh it, but unfortunately, the buff that this gives, the debuff it gives on the target, only lasts, I believe, 10 seconds. So it's safer to carry on using tracer shot. Tracer missile to keep that debuff up so you don't have to restack it 5 times, which takes 3 missiles, than it is to use power shot, which doesn't do that. It doesn't refresh that, but it does give more damage. It does that a little bit more damage. So here's a little cheeky little thing you can do is, if you have another mercenary DPS doing this, which is applying the tracer missile, the chances are they're going to be doing it like you normally would do, which is always use tracer missile. And if that is the case, then you don't need to even touch tracer missile. You can just use power shot instead and do more DPS, because your heat seeking missile will still get the benefit of his 5 stacks being on there. So it's a cheeky little way that you can do a little bit more DPS than he does. So long as he doesn't have the same idea as you, then you're going to be doing it all wrong and you have to restack it. So just keep an eye out. Don't use heat seeking missile, see if he does. Or if you're in a guild, just say, oh fuck it, we'll just both use tracer missiles. The only reason I say that, once you become very familiar with the rotation, you can hit tracer missile, hit any of these that you need. If they're on cooldown, drop down to power shot and use it. But what I find is you sometimes get sighted, you get like tunnel vision, and you'll go straight onto unload because it procs, and then oh shit, the debuff run off before you had a chance to reapply it with tracer missile. So then you have to apply 3 to get the full benefit of heat seeker missiles. So it's kind of a trade-off, and you have to be very good at the rotation to be able to incorporate power shot successfully, but it is worth doing because you get more damage out of it. Oh, these people are respawning. Let's get rid of these. So that's pretty much the rotation of the Bounty Hunter. I'm just screwing around with these guys. Apart from that, it's a very easy rotation, but we do rely on not so much rely, but we get a lot more damage the more it procs unload barrage. The more barrage procs, the better. So we look for that quite a lot. But do use these abilities as soon as they're off cooldown. Your next ability with activation time, that means you can fire a tracer missile instantly. It doesn't have to charge. Thermal override gives you a free shot of tracer missile or power shot, depending on which one you want to use. So that's pretty much it for the guy. It's very simple, and I don't need to be very visual with you because you just follow the steps that I've told you. All you got to remember is tracer missile, heat seeker, rail shot, and unload. Just make sure that heat seeker and rail shot are always used as soon as they become available. Keep up your tracer missile stacks debuff on the boss targets, and just use unload. Even if it doesn't proc, as soon as it comes off cooldown, use it anyway, because your next tracer missile or power shot could refresh that proc, could refresh it from being cooled down. So that's pretty much it, and this does work for the Commando as well. So you'll be using grav round, demolition round, high impact bolt, and charge bolts instead. So that's pretty much all you need to know for this class for DPS and that. If you're going to do AoE stuff, which to be honest we're not very good at as a class, because a lot of our AoE abilities take a lot of heat up, but what I will suggest you do is you use explosive dart, fire explosive dart in. You can use death from above, jump up, blah 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 blah, use your death from above, but then use your thermal override on this one here, the fusion missile, because it does cost 33 heat. This is the big one, this is what costs a lot, so do use that thermal sensor override on that. It's debatable whether you want to use sweeping blasters. I personally don't think it does enough damage, and I'll just single target them until stuff's off cooldown. Keep tabbing the targets, because this here will put you way over 50%. We want to try and keep below 50% to keep this recharge rate at 4 bars, so that we get constant recharge on the heat. So that's it really. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments below and I'll answer the questions there. And until next time, peace out people.